What's up, everybody, and welcome to the College Football Week 0 show. We're back. We're back, guys, after a long summer. And I mean, it was a grinding out some MLB, some MMA. Finally, this is like the appetizer, but we finally get some college football. Just like last year, it's a three-man booth. We're going to be joined every week, myself, HeadChopper, walking you through some of these games. Jordan and Dan are also here. So let's start this puppy off with Jordan Vanek, the author of the premium article here, man. One of the probably the best in the biz, like the best article out there. Jordan, how was your summer, man? And how much are you looking forward to some week 0 action?
Oh, the summer was great. I feel like I've DM'd Dan a million different screenshots of different news throughout this off season. I will say the first slate of the year actually kicks off one of my favorite takes I had of the summer best ball season. We'll see how that looks right away against Fresno State. Preview that in a little bit. But overall, it's been good. Best ball was nice, and now I'm ready for week 0. I'm just not ready for Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State. Both of those teams are the worst. Dan, I was reading or listening to that podcast this morning.
I was trying to gear up with some Sam Houston. I honestly actually wanted to. I had a bias, and it wasn't a bias take. I had settled on a take at their wide receiver position. I'll still throw it out there once we get there, because I think after the first couple of guys, it's like who knows what's going to happen, regardless. But I had a take that I was trying to dig in more on, and I have not had any. I don't have any confidence in that take anymore. But we can talk about that more when we get to that game, I guess.
We got a lot of takes. We're going to get to them here. We just got a little 4-gamer for you. We're going to do the 4-gamer on FanDuel, but I mean, the players, they hold up across both sites. So it is what it is. We just want to talk you through these games and get you there. But it's college football, man. There's, just to start the year when you're doing your, let's say, best ball research, you're digging up 100 teams. This one's only 4 games. Next week will probably be in the neighborhood of 12 to 16 games. Who knows what they're going to do? It gets a little bit tougher, but so unlike the NFL, there's so much news out there in the offseason. Like there's so much turnover with players, and I find that the coaching stuff is the biggest deal, and that's very strenuous, but that's what we're here for, to walk you through all that. So let's just get this puppy cranked up with the first game on the board that's going to kick off at noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central time. Iowa State and Kansas State. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this game is overseas. I think this is one of them Ireland games. So should be interesting. It's a Big 12 battle right on. Like the first thing we kick off. We don't, not in this NFL preseason. 3 weeks of garbage time, guys. Watching Joe Milton overshoot his receiver about 30 yards. We get the real deal, a conference game kicking it off, Iowa State, Kansas State. So let's talk to Jordan first. I want to hear his takes on Iowa State and Kansas State.
So for starters, the Kansas State, I think is going to not dominate them, but I think they could manhandle and kind of run away with this game because Iowa State lost premier talent. I know we want to sit here and try to say Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend and some of these other guys are going to come in and replace Jaden Higgins and J.M. Noel, and that's just not how college football works. These two receivers were there for 3 years with Rocco Beck. The chemistry, everything they did on offense was centered around those two guys. So for me on this game on the Iowa State side for showdown contest, I'm not sure Chase Sowell is going to be the guy in this offense. I'm not sure if Xavier Townsend is going to be the guy either. They're projected like it. They've been talked like it. But on the depth chart, they put some orders out there. And Dominic Overby is very intriguing to me. He's a 6'5" receiver, ran track in high school, was there last spring. And during the offseason, they talked about his improvements. And then you've got the other receiver. I can't say his last name, but Eskil Disson. I don't know how to say it, but I do know that he is another guy that's been there for 2 years in the program, been training with his team, has some familiarity with Beck. So for showdown slates, I'm taking shots on there. But as far as the Iowa State team on the FanDuel slate, I'm not sure I really want to get to any of them. Carson Hansen, just because the running back position's a little weak. And on the Kansas State side, I mean, Avery Johnson is phenomenal. The one thing about Kansas State that I'm fearful of is Matt Wells calling plays. They had a co-OC thing last year with him being the passing game guy and someone else being the run game. They got rid of the other guy. He's going to be calling the plays. He was the offensive coordinator for Jordan Love at the Utah State days. Darwin Thompson, if anybody remembers him over there. So I think from a workload perspective, we'll see a healthy dose of Dylan Edwards. I think Dylan Edwards is going to catch a lot of passes in this game. He's got to test these linebackers on the perimeter for Iowa State. And then Kansas State receivers, Jace Brown should lead it, but Jaron Bradley and the other transfer, Tibbs, both of them could find some production. Bradley is more intriguing on FanDuel. He's like 6'6", like catching a big touchdown. He actually has production. 2 years ago, I think, was at Texas Tech. He had over 700 yards. So it's an ugly game, but you can take some pieces from it. And for me, I think Kansas State rolls them.
Yeah, this is one of the coordinators that's going to change this year was Kansas State. So when you dig into Matt Wells,
yep,
his I don't want to say his MO or his pedigree is more of like passing, is pass heavy. In fact, let me pull up y'all's screenshot. Yeah, it's more like pass heavy, and that kind of scared me a little bit because what they're losing is. Actually, I believe it was Connor Riley was their OC last year.
Yeah. And
he got promoted to the Dallas Cowboys. That's how good he is. He got promoted to the Dallas Cowboys. That's how good he is. He built a very, very strong run game scheme for them. So I'm a little bit worried. I'm not worried, but I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm kind of bumping up Avery Johnson just a tad bit here, just based on the fact that he gets a coordinator here that's probably less run heavy and more suited, like you said, Jordan Love at Utah State, like more suited to develop a quarterback. So I'm kind of bumping up Avery Johnson a little bit here. I don't mind him. I actually think it's a good game to start off with, Total. Like it's a conference game and it's Iowa State, and under Matt Campbell, they're usually super, super competitive every year regardless. So I think we're going to get a good game, but how do you see this thing playing out?
I think it's going to be a good game too. It's just a matter of like, is it going to be good for fantasy? And I appreciate that you guys have let out, even in your intro, Chubb, you're kind of talking about the uncertainty of teams throughout the offseason with college football and just how much turnover there is. Even coaching staffs like we mentioned with Kansas State. And then Jordan mentioned it with the Iowa State receiving options. I think one of the craziest things I've seen with college football, best ball drafts, and even leading into like people that do projections is just an overconfidence that things are just going to remain the same for players and also systems. And so one of those spots that I think Jordan did a good job touching on is those Iowa State receivers. I think it's right to project Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend is the two top options for this passing attack. But like, I'm not confident they're going to come anywhere close to what we saw last year with Noel and Higgins. Like, it's going to look completely different. So if you're seeing projections out there that are like overly confident on those guys, I think this would be an interesting place to take a stand. I mean, it's probably better to do it on DraftKings with the showdown option than it is in the full slate on FanDuel. So Jordan mentioned Overby. That's the guy that I kind of found myself on too, the speedster. I saw some local beats hyping him up as somebody that they thought would start. Their depth chart, the official depth chart, I believe has oars pretty much everywhere. So it would not be surprising to see one of these guys start. And Overby, I think, is an interesting option. He's 1K on that DraftKings showdown. I think if you use optimizers using our projections, probably if you use optimizers using industry projections, you'll see Joe Jackson is kind of the cheap guy that's filling in as the salary relief option for that showdown slate. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong. He projects the way he does because I think that's the workload he's going to get. But you could argue the upside's not there, where somebody like Overby definitely has that upside. So I think that would be an interesting pivot in tournaments, would be to try to take a shot at Overby or something in some of those DraftKings showdown contests. Also relevant for those showdown contests on DraftKings, not necessarily a full slate on FanDuel, is the RB workload split. I have Hansen the pretty clear RB1, but also all the talk has been that it's going to be a continued split. And so Sama is showing is kind of a decent mid-tier option. I think I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that very confidently because I don't love it, but he is. I do think he's a relevant option on that showdown slate. Kansas State side of things, again, uncertainty here. So like we saw this with the best ball drafts where everybody is assuming Dylan Edwards is DJ Giddens, right? Like that is the draft capital that was spent on him. I don't know how you do that. First of all, for best ball, this is beside the point for this week. Best ball, he has 3 buys, right? So like those bye weeks weren't factored in at all, in my opinion, based on his ADP. But also they're just assuming this Dylan Edwards, who is what? He's not a big guy. We just assume
about
that
5'8", about 5'8".
Yeah, he's like 5'8". He's not a big guy. And based on his draft positioning, the assumption seems to be that he's going to come in. He's going to be DJ Giddens. He's going to take a 45 to 50% RB workload throughout the season and be able to handle that and continue the receiving work that he saw. Like, I don't see that. That's kind of beside the point because on this slate, he's very clearly RB1. Even if you're conservative with a projection on him and put him like below 30% and boosted Joe Jackson up a bit, like, regardless, Dylan Edwards is RB1 on this slate on FanDuel. Like you're going to pencil him. If you're playing anything with cash games, you're penciling him in there. So that's kind of beside the point. Jordan mentioned his underdog prop and how it's only 11.5 receiving yards. I think it's up to 12.5 now. That does seem awfully low. Again, scheme could be a little bit different with OC and stuff, but that seems awfully low. Receivers, I don't love any of these receivers. I will say this is probably one of the cleaner receiving cores in terms of like who we know is going to be on the field / thinks going to be on the field. Like I feel fairly confident Chase Brown, Duran Bradley. I'm missing our wide receiver for some reason. Tibbs. There we go. Like I feel like those are probably the guys. But it's like, unless they take that leap in the passing attack, like Chop kind of mentioned, like if you want to angle it, then those are the guys you would pair Avery Johnson with. I feel confident in that, but I still don't love them on the full slate.
Yeah, uncertainty. I would hot take, but when this season's all said and done, I don't know that I'd be super, super surprised if Garrett Oakley didn't score more touchdowns than Dylan Edwards. How do we know Dylan Edwards isn't going to get removed out of the game every time they're inside the 10-yard line? He's a small guy, but
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? That's why.
There's Avery Johnson is going to run his ass off too. So
yeah, I
don't know, but I do like Garrett Oakley as a. I do like the tight ends this week in general. We'll get into more here in a minute, but I think tight ends hold a little value this week. But on to the next game. Let's go Fresno and Kansas. Now we kick off the main slate on DraftKings too. So Fresno, they're back. We're going to run it back again. Kansas is another one of those teams that changed offensive coordinators over the offseason. If you guys remember, I'll give you the timeline. There was a time when Jalen Daniels burst onto the scene in DFS, and he was like point per game when he was healthy, like incredible. You just a machine. Last year they changed offensive coordinators, and I feel like he never got into that good Jalen Daniels rhythm, man, of being a great DFS player. Some of it might be just my bias in my head, but I felt like he never caught a big rhythm. Well, guess what? Now that guy is gone, and getting the promotion is a guy he worked with prior to the last guy. So I think we get a lot more older Jalen Daniels, that run-heavy Jalen Daniels type stuff that he's very comfortable with. So to be honest, Jalen Daniels is my QB1 on this slate, I think. I like Jalen Daniels quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he just absolutely crushes it. We're seeing Highshaw here at 8.7 on DraftKings. They made him a plug-and-play on DraftKings if you haven't seen that salary. So I'll start off with Tuttle here. Fresno, Kansas, one-sided, lopsided. Who do you like? Talk to me.
Yeah, I think it might end up lopsided. And almost all my love is going to be for Kansas on the fantasy side of things here. You mentioned Jalen Daniels. I think he's the decision point in most like cash game type lineups. I think the decision point is between Jalen Daniels and McIver for QB2. I think a lot of people are going to play Ali Otto. I like the Daniels build. I actually do like the 700 it gets you that you say for McIver. We'll get to that game later, but I have some more doubts on that game than I do with Jalen Daniels for whatever that's worth. If you do think Jalen Daniels returns to his old self, I think I feel like I'm going to leave this passing attack to Jordan because I feel like I'd be stealing any sort of thunder of what he's built up all offseason if I mentioned anything with the passing attack. So I'm going to skip right over that. Go to running back. Yes, Chop mentioned plug and play Daniel Highshaw. Again, I will say there's not a high confidence level on exactly what the split's going to look like between Highshaw and LaShawn Williams. I will say Highshaw is pretty – he seems like RB1. It's just a matter of how wide that gap's going to be. But even again, if you're it's kind of similar to Dylan Edwards. Even if you're fairly conservative with where you put him in the RB1 range, he's just an easy play on DraftKings. He's just like almost he's like a lock just because of the price tag there. And again, we don't have Dylan Edwards on the DraftKings slate, so it's like he's just an easy play on DraftKings. FanDuel, I think he's also the play alongside Dylan Edwards, but at least you can make some arguments maybe against him if you're trying to save salary or things like that. But I do think he's the other RB. He's the RB2 there. So I'll leave Kansas passing attack. Jordan Fresno real quick. Probably the guy I'm lowest on compared to the market on, and I hope I don't regret this, is going to be Bryson Donaldson. He's the kid that he's getting hype out of the beat reporters. He's being hyped as RB1. The issue is they have 4 running back. Like they literally have 4 running. Anything you read in their camp news, anything you read from coaches is talking about how many running backs they have, how they want to get them all involved. One of the quotes I read was like, "We have 8 guys I would love to play back there." When you're telling me all these things, like I need to see that Donaldson's going to come out and handle, a true workhorse RB workload before I can project him like that. I can't just speculate that he's going to go into that role. They brought Rayshawn Luke over from Arizona. He kind of profiles as more of like the pass catching third down back. They still have Gilliam there, who I do think they could eventually phase out, but like he's a 6-year senior. I don't think he's coming back if he's not being told he's going to have at least some sort of role there. So Donaldson's the guy I'm lowest on. So if you're using RG projections, that's just something to be cognizant of. If you want to be closer to the field on him, you'll probably have to boost his projection up a little bit. I think I have him projected for like around 43, 44 rushing yards and about 10 rushing attempts. And market on him is at about 68 yards, I think is what Underdog has him posted at. So I obviously like the under there. This passing attack, don't love it. Josiah Freeman would be the top option, and he's shaping up that way. It's just, I don't know. I don't love Fresno's side of things. Another knock against Donaldson would be that this is a 12.5 point spread. They're probably going to have to throw late. Again, we're going to cut into Donaldson attempts there if that's the case. If you do want to play like the comeback angle and try to stack up some Fresno passing attack, or at least get some of these options, I do think Josiah Freeman and then Jordan Brown. But I don't love either option.
Wow, Toto does not have no love for Kurt Warner's kids throwing the ball, man. Is this the last Jordan? This is the Temple? This is the Temple Warner, right?
Yeah,
he's not bad, man.
And then he played a year at Rice, right? I think it was.
Yeah,
he played with Rice last year. He can sling it a little bit, man. But I'm gonna go to Jordan because I like Jalen Daniels a lot this week and in general this year. So if I'm gonna pair him with a wide receiver, is there a clear-cut guy in your eyes that's a no-brainer?
Yeah, for me, it's Emmanuel Henderson. So the story with Henderson is important to kind of get into when you look at his production historically at Alabama. First off, coming from Alabama, that's always a good sign. 4-star kid out of high school. He was a running back. Started his career at Alabama as a running back. Nick Saban noticed his frame wasn't going to be able to be cut out for an SEC-style running back, converts him to a receiver. The kid was a gunner for us and like on special teams and worked and played through those while converting into learning how to be an SEC level receiver. Then Nick Saban retires. So what does he do? He decides, all right, I'll give DeBoer a chance. At the time, Ryan Williams decommitted from Alabama. Emmanuel Henderson is working with the ones at Alabama. Jeremy Bernard comes in. He has his role in this offense. You have Emmanuel Henderson here, and then Jalen Hale got hurt, and the other receivers, some of them transferred over to the summer. Comes into fall camp thinking there's a 17-year-old coming into camp. I'm going to have playtime. Like, he's going to get his chance at receiver and perform. And Ryan Williams takes his job. That's just point blank. And if anybody's watched Ryan Williams, the kid's unbelievable. He, like him and Jeremiah Smith last year, would have been probably regarded as top receivers in this past year's draft. And they're both 17 and 18 years old. So he ends up transferring over to Kansas, and the reviews from him are raving. He's the fastest player they've ever had, according to their metrics. Like, Jason Bean was the closest one, and he's been faster than him. Jalen Daniels, the aspect of Jalen Daniels' game that is what made him special when he first came into college football was deep shots on these deep crossers, go routes. Emmanuel Henderson is the fastest player in the team. He's the only receiver that's not an or on the depth chart. He's been raved in reviews all summer. And Jalen Daniels, Chop, you said, like, he hasn't exactly been himself the last 2 years. When he first came on the scene, he was phenomenal. This is the first, summer where he wasn't recovering from a surgery. Like, from summer, he just immediately was throwing with his, receivers, new guys coming in, and stayed and has been healthy all throughout training camp without missing any time. That's the first time in his career since that first season that he's been able to do that. And for me, I am a big Jalen Daniels believer. Best ball, I don't care about the 3 bye weeks. He goes so late that I can kind of work around it. And I've been picking Emmanuel Henderson all summer. He's a receiver that I like here. And for me, that's why I put him a little blurb. And as far as their other pass catchers, Cam Pickett, I don't mind taking shots on him. I don't mind taking shots on Levi Wentz either. Levi Wentz is actually one of my buddy's cousins. And the kid didn't play high school till senior year of high school. Was a 2 or 3 star basketball kid, converted to play football his senior year, played corner, and then got a few scholarships. So he decided to go for corner and then converts to receiver as well. He transfers in. They're pretty high on him. He's a goal line guy for, if you weren't trying to chase a touchdown, I don't mind it. But another thing I would say is LaShawn Williams, I feel like, is a big pivot point on the slate. Like, what if he gets the goal line touchdowns here, or the late run? Because Highshaw, Chop, he's had some injury issues as well. It's like, to me on this slate, if you think, Kansas rolls them, I don't mind playing him with a Jalen Daniels and Emmanuel Henderson stack, and just kind of thinking Jalen and Manuel get it done through the first 3 quarters, and then LaShawn Williams gets it done in the 4th quarter here. And then Tuttle said it right. The Fresno backfield is scary. I'm only really playing Bryson Donaldson with a Kansas game stack. And then Josiah Freeman, I think, is the clear-cut one in this offense. And EJ Warner has showed he can be a competent passer, but on top of it, he hyper-targets his main guy. So I like Freeman a lot here.
Yeah, so if you're keeping a score at home, that's 1 prop bet from Jordan and 1 prop bet on the under on Donaldson from Tuttle. So you already got your little card here, man. Over on Henderson, under on Donaldson. You're looking golden. Next eight. What's that?
Chop. I need a chop take. So if we're not playing, because I actually like this call out from Jordan here. Highshaw is going to be in high stakes contests. Highshaw is going to be 80%. In the 333 is going to be 80. He's going to be just massively, massively owned. Mm-hmm. If you're not playing Highshaw, who are you playing?
At running back on DraftKings?
Yeah. Because, I kind of like this take where you play Jalen Daniels, you play Emmanuel Henderson. You just hope everything siphons. I don't mind the LaShawn Williams take, and then you hope he gets the late run. But otherwise,
so if I'm going that route, and I won't go that route. I'll play Highshaw. I eat the chalk. But if I didn't, I double stack Jalen Williams with Henderson and Hanukkah.
Okay.
I go Hanukkah. So I think that's going to be a touchdown maker.
That makes sense.
And maybe if we take away from it, but I actually like Hanukkah. Like a tight end, I have a lot of love for tight ends this week. He's one of them. We'll talk about some more here in a little bit, but that could be a path to take some touchdowns away from Highshaw. And Jalen Daniels in the red zone is going to run the ball more. I think at least in the first few weeks while, like Jordan said, he's healthy finally. while he's healthy, he's going to run the ball more. There's a path there, but on DraftKings, I eat the chalk. That's just too cheap. So,
Yeah, I probably will too. But it is an interesting. I wish pricing was tightened up at least a little bit so you could consider more of that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the way it is. Next game that on the timeline takes us to Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State. Little known fact: Sam Houston is in Huntsville, Texas. I spent a couple years down there at Sam Houston on campus. I didn't actually go to class. I was just down there living in an apartment about a mile away from campus. It's fun. It's a fun city, man. It's a fun town, but there's a lot of discrepancies going on with this game. Like there's a lot of things going on, and we'll let the guys talk about it in a minute. I do want to point out Western Kentucky, typical air raid stuff they run, change coordinators, but nothing should really change on them. They do what they do. Sam Houston State is the incredibly interesting one here, because if you've watched it, Sam Houston State got bumped up to D1 here recently, and they've been atrocious on offense, like just terrible on offense. Tough to watch. Watch paint dry on offense. Guess who their coach is, guys? A lot of people don't know this. Bill Longo, very familiar name. Very familiar name. That's the North Carolina guy that was there with Mac Brown, who made waves with Drake May. Then he went to Wisconsin, a little bit less success at Wisconsin. There was conflicting things going on there. But Phil Longo is a very reputable offensive coach, and he goes back home, actually. He's originated. That's where he cut his teeth, was in Sam Houston State. So he's going to bring that offense in with his offensive coordinator, and I think there's a big-time uptick in offense here from Sam Houston. The problem is, Jordan, we got to figure out on that depth chart. It's so weird, and they didn't do us any favors. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, I'm just going with who was the best receiver for me, and I think that's Humphreys. I don't quite know. I really hope Hunter Watson doesn't play much in this game. He doesn't fit. Like he's a Rich Rodriguez quarterback. He is not a Phil Longo quarterback. He is built to run. He is not built to throw. Watching him last year, like the only throws that produce for him was like when it was wide open because they were selling out on the run game, and it was deep shots on the perimeter. Humphreys is someone that kind of matches a little bit to that. He's a deep shot playmaker for that team. The Phil Longo offense, if the other guy does get into the game, I think is just going to be peppering the slot receiver. Not sure who the slot receiver is going to be, which is the problem here. But Malik Phillips has some production, all of which have come from the slot. If he ends up being the starter, which I believe he is the starter on the depth chart, that is not having any transfers, that would be ideal. And if Hunter Watson does play a lot of this game, then I think Elijah Green becomes more viable, because I think Phil Longo will just try to run the ball. It's kind of what they did at Wisconsin when it wasn't, their air raid wasn't working. They just ended up like, all right, we're going to try to run the ball as much as we can. Phil Longo wants to build the air raid here. Year one, is he going to be able to accomplish it? Not so sure. And then Western Kentucky, they changed coordinators. Their coordinator that they brought in throws the ball a ton. And by the way, this Albany Christian almost beat Texas Tech week 1 of last year. They were 52-55 and are 54-55 because Albaline just went for 2 at the end of the game. That quarterback was McVor. I mean, the pass rate's going to be 60+% there. I think K.D. Hutchinson is the one in that offense, but Matthew Henry's prop, you guys got to see my just spew of nonsense with watching his film. I have no idea how he produced such a high level at the FCS level. I'm not sure he's going to be able to produce at the FBS level. Sam Houston isn't exactly the cream of the crop FBS team, so it's not too different of a situation. But I love taking shots on Jarius Mack instead. Jarius Mack's a little cheaper, and I think it's just more talented. Jarius Mack has 400-yard games in his career. North Carolina was one of them. I think it was Temple and then two other schools that were, group of 5 Power 4 schools. So he's got a little bit bigger history for me for production, and someone that I will double stack McAvoy with. I don't know how you feel, Tuttle.
Yeah, I feel like this game's a disaster. Like the issue is, so we talk about uncertainty. This is the game that has the most uncertainty by far. So that means if you see anybody who's going to be chalky, you probably just go underweight on that, right? Like I'll just pick up with Western Kentucky because that's who we were talking about. prop markets, betting markets, projection systems, like they have Katie Hutchinson clear wide receiver 1. Why are we confident in that? Why do we think that's a thing? I haven't seen anything that has me like I haven't projected that way because I don't think I'm smarter than the crowd, but like this guy has a total of 625 receiving yards over 3 seasons, 383 yards. Like, why is he receiver 1? Why is he projected that? Like, I don't know. Like, I think he's quick. I think he will probably get a fair amount of options, and I'm likely playing him in cash contests because it is what it is. But I think you could play Emmanuel Henderson if you feel confidence over Henderson over him. I think would be fine. I think that's a decision point. I think that's completely fine. But that's not just a Hutchinson knock, right? That's like a whole Western Kentucky passing game knock or receiving game knock is we do not know with any certainty who's going to rise to the top here of this passing attack. So if people are being treated like that, then we should probably, again, go underweight. So Hutchinson's the guy that's probably going to get ownership just because of his projections. But man, some of the transfers they brought in have better production, better collegiate production. That's where things are hard. Like that's why I asked Jordan, what's his take on Matthew Henry? Because Henry has good collegiate production, albeit at a level lower. But he showed me some of the tape, and I'm not a tape guy by any stretch. But the best way to put it, and this is what I said watching the tape, he's got good ball instincts, right? Like he can track the ball. He can bring the ball in. But most of the catches he was making were like chemistry-based catches with his quarterback, which you wonder if he's going to have that chemistry, right? Like it was all timing-based. It wasn't that he was getting separation. It was all timing-based. So is he going to have that with a new quarterback? Probably not. But who knows? Maybe he's that good. So like Matthew Henry might be something, he might not be anything. And then you start, you mentioned Mac. Musa Berry might get some run. Cameron Flowers might get some run. I don't know. It's a huge question mark. And we have a quarterback here that's propped for like 294 passing yards, right? Like we know how prolific this passing attack probably is going to be or could be. So it's something we want a piece of. I just don't know how to logically say like this is the guy. Hutchinson and is probably the guy I feel most confident in actually being on the field. And then from there, I think it's kind of a toss-up. And I'm not totally confident on the pecking order from there. And so I guess that's probably why Hutchinson's looking like chalk, because he is the one that you can confidently say will be on the field, whereas the others are still like, not totally sure. That's almost a running back situation too, unfortunately. Not that you were looking for a running back here. That's basically the running back situation. We'll probably see early down split between Lavelle Wright, George Hart. They have some other guys in there like Jaden McGill. I found some guy named Marvis Parrish.
Marvis.
Yeah, that is trying to
Marvelous Marvis.
Knowledge on.
You don't know Marvis Parrish?
I do not know Marvis Parrish. Jalen Hampton. The other thing, though, here, and this is why I think it's an interesting discussion between Maverick and Jalen Daniels, is like we're just assuming. It's important to remember the turnover for both Western Kentucky and Sam Houston is massive on both sides of the ball. We're just assuming, based on some of these projections and based on prop markets, that like Western Kentucky is going to have this seamless transition and just be awesome again. And it's because they have been. That has been the history's. That's been the program's history. They have been awesome. But like, I would not be that surprised if for some reason they stumbled. There's a lot of moving parts here that need to get figured out. And that's the same for Sam Houston then. And we don't even know who their quarterback is yet. I think most likely it's Hunter Watson. The one thing I do want to say here is that, because I almost found myself getting ahead of myself here with this, is that, and Jordan did a good job mentioning what Longo ended up basically doing with Wisconsin. He did not have his personnel, right? So he basically had to be like, okay, we're just going to have to run the ball more than what I typically like to do. And that hit has been all the coach speak out of camp. All the coach speak from Longo has been, yes, I'm air raid, but I have to deal with what I've been given. I have to deal with the weapons I have. So with that in mind, I would not be surprised if Watson gets the start here and they run the ball a ton. Like I think that would shock everybody. But to me, it wouldn't be that surprising, just because to be as good of a coach as Longo is at this level, you have to recognize your strengths and weaknesses, especially in matchups, right? So this is the other issue that's hard with so much turnover is we can't really look at last year's defensive statistics and be like, okay, this is going to happen again. But Western Kentucky was atrocious against the run, and they were really good against the pass. Some of that was opponent based because they just didn't play anybody that could pass the ball. But they were really, really bad against the run. So, like, I think everybody's assuming that Phil Longo air raid, we're going to see a ton of throwing out of Sam Houston. I would not be surprised if they run the ball more than expected. So in that instance, if that's the angle you want to play, Hunter Watson, he could go lower owned. Like, if you told me coming into this slate with the total that we have, and we knew Hunter Watson was going to be QB1, I'd actually think he'd be one of the higher owned quarterbacks on the slate just because of his rushing ability, right? And so I don't think it's necessarily safe to pencil him into 100% role here, but I do think that's an angle you can take in GPPs because I think he'll be under-owned for what he is. If he gets a full game and it's a close game, then he's going to be one of the top scoring quarterbacks on the slate. Like he will be. He'll be top 4, I think, pretty easily, and then it's a matter of if he can work his way into optimal lineups from there. But if he gets to 100% of this game, I think he's worthy of having in tournaments for sure. Do you pair him is the question then? And it's hard. The receivers, again, I think Humphreys is 1. I think Phoenix is 2. And then from there, I have uncertainties. Malik Phillips is the guy that people are penciling in as the slot receiver. Is that right? I don't know. Tim Burns Jr. is the guy that I wanted to be the slot guy. And he's going to be on 0 people's radar. He's literally going to be 0.1% owned, which is what we have him projected for. This is a guy who, again, has solid collegiate production, again, at a lower level. But he's like a prototypical slot guy. So he's a guy that I might throw on a $20 team just for fun, just to see how it works out, Tim Burns Jr. Just because I do think the receiver rotation beyond Humphreys and Phoenix is just completely up in the air. Running back rotation is also tough. I think Elijah Green is going to be like, if you told me Sam Houston wins this game, it's probably on the back of Hunter Watson and Elijah Green. So if you're gonna play that, you're gonna take that stance, and I think those are the 2 guys you want exposure to.
So Elijah Green didn't make the depth chart, which is maybe some shenanigans and all that stuff. Yeah. I would say, in my opinion, if the depth chart comes out and things are normal, and these guys aren't playing games, and Elijah Green is the RB1, and there's no or next to his name, and he's just in that top slot, he's my running back 1 on this slate over Dylan Edwards, over Highshaw, over everybody. But they're playing shenanigans, so I kind of gotta wait and see. Maybe somebody's down there in warm-ups and they say, oh yeah, Elijah Green's running with the ones, and then we know, okay, he's good to go. He's good. But he's a power 4 running back, legitimate power 4 running back. Yep. Drop down a level to Sam Houston State, taking on Western Kentucky. Guys like this usually thrive when they drop down a level, and that's what he's doing. So we'll see. Keep your eyes on that.
So there's your play. There's your play off Highshaw, right?
He also played with Phil Longo.
Yeah.
Like he caught as a freshman. He literally caught like 20 or 30 passes as a freshman, as a running back. Like, it's wild.
He produced.
I mean, there's your pivot. I mean, that's a good point.
Produced in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is no joke. So, but
if people are going to try to show depth charts for Sam Houston, like, because I've seen some people actually like legitimately quoting the depth chart, like, hey, this guy's listed starter. If you go to any Sam Houston beat reporter, they'll just be like, this is a complete troll job.
You just got to get in Discord. This is why you get in Discord, because somebody out there on Twitter will be at that game. They will be telling you who's running with the ones, and then they'll get relayed through the internet, and we'll get it back to Discord, and that's when you pull the trigger and you have a good time with it. But last game on the board for this, a little Stanford, Hawaii, a little Hawaii action here, man. This should be a chalky Hawaii offense. I'll start off with Tuttle on this one. Yeah, we look like this looks like a good game on the paper, and got some good players here. Some of this Hawaii offense under Timmy Chang, always a threat to throw the ball 100 times, whatever they need to. So how you feeling about this game total?
Yeah, I think it's a good game. I have Alejado with the outrageous projection. I know I have him with an outrageous projection. I've tried to lower the outrageous projection. I'm not going to lower a number just to concede to market if I don't see a reason to. We talk about a lot of turnover. This is the one spot where we don't have coaching turnover. We know what's going to happen in this offense. They're going to throw the ball a shit ton. And they're going to do it as this is just what they're going to keep doing. They're going to do it at a fast pace. Yeah. And so we know who the top two receivers are. Like this is one of the cleaner offenses on the slate. Running back's a little bit messy. Always is a little bit messy. You never really want a Hawaii running back. But Sims is semi in play just because of the weakness of the position. But Ashlock, Senecal, easy wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I think you could flip-flop them. I don't know who's 1. I don't know who's 2, but they're both very good plays. Both are going to pop individually in different games. Don't worry at that level. Just know each are very good options. Both should probably be in your cash game lineups. And then I do think you'll see jacks. So the thing with Hawaii is, like in the past, because they run so many plays and because they pass so much, we see a huge wide receiver rotation. And we'll still continue to see that. But their wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4 are significantly better than what we have seen in past years for them as well. So that could go a couple ways, I guess. Passing volume so much that it doesn't matter, and that those guys are good for their value anyway. So like Brandon White, he's only 3,500. Love him at that price on DraftKings. I think he's the best value option on the slate personally. But you could also see them siphon a little bit more volume away from Ashlock and Senecal. I still think those two are the two top receivers on the play. But I do think it's very possible that we see, the production spread out more than we typically have the last couple of years, at least for Hawaii. So passing attack, love it. You want exposure to it. Stanford, they're a little bit tougher to figure out. Just because I don't like Gulbranson. I don't think he's good. The thing I'll give him is he's experienced, right? Like he has snaps under his belt. And so like he's got that going for him, but I don't think he's very good. The thing is, he might not have to be good to produce in this game because the environment's going to be a good environment. So if I'm playing him, or I'm not super interested in playing him, but if I think Stanford puts up a little bit of a fight and I want to get some attack or some exposure to their passing attack, to me it's CJ Williams or Sam Roush. Williams comes over from Wisconsin. He had some productive games for them actually, and then Roush is the tight end there. I have those two as the two highest target shares, and I think that checks out. I think that tracks. Caden High should be their slot guy. Bryce Farrell is kind of their gadget guy. I was over projecting CJ Williams earlier in this week, and I was trying to figure out why. Like everything looked good. It's because Bryce Farrell's like yards per target was so low, because they must just everything he gets must be at the line of scrimmage, because he did not have a high completion rate or reception rate, and everything. It was like he had like a 4.3 yards per target when like our average, what you see for average is usually closer to around the 8s, and he was down there at 4.3. So he's not like a huge downfield guy, but they give him some carries out of the backfield, things like that. So he's a little kind of a gadget guy. So if he breaks a play, it's like maybe the upside's there. But for me, it's Williams and Roush. The running back position, unfortunately, is relevant on this slate. Micah Ford is RB1, Cole Tabb's RB2. That gap is probably closer than a lot of the other gaps. So, like, I think that gap ends up closer than, like a LaShawn Williams and Daniel Highshaw in terms of RB1, RB2 type of gaps. But it's still big enough. It's still a big enough gap, and Ford's still cheap enough where I think he's in play on this slate. I don't think he's like an amazing play, but he does also catch the ball as well. He's got capable hands. So I think he's just like an okay running back option, but not some guy I'm super excited to have.
Yeah, I'll say I'm in the minority, but I thought Frank Reich was a pretty good NFL head coach, a pretty decent head coach. I thought he was all right. I thought, had his moments. This is his first season at Stanford, and so he's the new head coach there. He's going to change things up a bit. The one thing I do remember about Frank Reich in the NFL, he loved him some tight ends, loved him some tight end play. That's why I like Sam Roush in this game as the target for Stanford. I think he might be their leading target getter. I like him. He might be their best pass catcher regardless. So that's where I'm leaning in this game. Of course, the Hawaii side, like Tuttle said, the quarterback going to air it out. You got two good slot wide receivers right there. You eat them up, especially on DraftKings, PPR, scoring, all that good stuff. Interested in Jordan's take here. What do you think?
So for me, I kind of, I guess like I've taken a stance. Like we don't really know who Micah Alado's number one receiver is going to be. I watched his entire first start as a freshman, and the skill set that he possesses versus what the production, like Ashlock has to get a lot of scheme touches, and he could totally get the low A and catch 7-8 balls in this game. But as far as like what this guy plays like is similar to like Russell Wilson in the aspect of like deep down the sidelines, down the middle of the field. And that's not necessarily Ashlock's game versus Senecal. I also think Jackson Harris returned from injury after missing 5 to 7 weeks, allegedly in the one little YouTube video. I think he returned on the 13th of August. I'm intrigued to see what type of, conditioning he has, because it's going to be, hot in Hawaii for that game. It's they're not playing at their casual 11:30. They're actually playing during the day. So I'm interested to see the rotation conditioning wise for a guy that missed so much time, but that makes me more inclined to play Brandon White, like Tuttle was alluding to. Brandon White is allegedly a 4.3 type of guy. And what I've seen of the videos, yet he looks every bit of that type of speed. So you have 3 little slot receivers. 2 of them can get it done down the field. And I'm not sure if they can necessarily get it done after the catch. Love playing all of them. Like just, I don't even mind playing 3 Hawaii receivers in the same lineup on this type of slate. Like it's only a 3 game or 4 on DraftKings. FanDuel, obviously, and not necessarily leaning that way at all. And then the Stanford side, I actually like the running back Michael Ford quite a bit in this matchup. Hawaii was giving up 290 rushing yards per game to end last season. It was just running back after running back that just kept putting up big numbers. Stanford, Frank Wright, like Andrew Luck being the CEO of everything, it kind of feels like running the ball with 2 tight ends and then also throwing to your tight end. It makes it a lot easier to throw to your tight end if linebackers are biting on the run game. So I think Micah Ford actually gets a little bit of a healthy dose I think he's a true sophomore. He's a true freshman last year that got run. And I think they're going to be able to run the ball with success against Hawaii. And you also want to keep them kind of off the field, keep your own quarterback ahead of the change, because Goldberson doesn't give you anything in the run game. He's a statue. He's a big 6'5" type quarterback that I think he's going to throw to the perimeter and CJ Williams. He's going to throw to Sam Roush off play action, and they're going to run the ball. So that's pretty much, those are the 3 guys that I like on the Stanford offense with my run backs of Hawaii.
That's it. 4 games for you guys. 4 games on week 0 to kick it off. Next week, I'm sure there's going to be a massive slate. We got out of here in under an hour. I don't know how we're going to do that when we got 12 games, but we'll figure some things out. Hope you enjoy it, guys. That's the rundown there. You guys got anything before we take off out of here? Tony, got anything before we leave?
Don't be afraid to play 3 Hawaii receivers like Jordan said. The other thing that I talked myself into while doing the show with you, I like Chop's Elijah Green take quite a bit. Hunter Watson's probably going to go under-owned if he gets 100% of snaps. I think you should play him in GPPs as well. And Emmanuel Henderson, I got to play some for sure.
Play Dominic Overby in Showdown for Iowa State, K-State. That is my one hot take for that one. Can't wait to see him come up 10% because of this.
Sounds good, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back this time next week for week 1 to kick it off. Until then, that was Tuttle, that was Jordan, I was Chop. We're out of here.